Achievement Channel. Conversation with Mr. Motivator.
Hello there and welcome to Achievement Channel. We're going to be having conversations with Mr. Motivator himself, and we'll be talking about such things as one's purpose in life, achieving the best that one can be, living a purposeful life, dream dreams and achieve your dreams. All this sound very, very abstract, but he's going to put direction to all of this so that we can begin to answer some of these questions. I'm sure you've sometimes asked yourself, why exactly did God create you and put you here at this time? Have you found an answer to that? I wouldn't think so. Well, he's going to take us on a journey that will help us begin to understand exactly what our purpose is in life. I remember once reading about the man who discovered the talking picture, otherwise known today as the television. And when he first mentioned the idea to his friends, they laughed at him and called him a dreamer. Guess what, guys? It's okay to dream because his dream is reality today. The point is, don't stay in the realm of dreaming. Make those dreams reality. How do you live a purposeful and worthwhile life? These questions Mr. Motivator is going to be answering in the course of this program as well. How can you be the best that you can be? How can you achieve your potential? These are all questions we'll be dealing with. We'll be back shortly.
Achievement Channel. Conversation with Mr. Motivator.
On today's program, we're going to be looking at your purpose in life. What is one's purpose? Why is one here at this time? Is your purpose the same as mine? Is mine the same as the other man's down the road? Well, I don't have any answers to all of this. I wouldn't even begin to discuss them because I don't have any idea. So it's my pleasure to say welcome to Mr. Motivator himself, Ubong, Essien.
Thank you very much. It's really good to be part of the Achievement Channel, and it's really great to have an opportunity like this to share some insights that can help people find their purpose and live.
Talk about all those things that are very dear to you.
Absolutely. Yes. For me, it's always an exciting perspective.
Yes, I mean, I read your article, and since then I've been asking myself exactly what my purpose is, and I haven't arrived at an answer. And well, I got a few gray hairs, so you can imagine how old I am. So, I mean, how does one find one's purpose in life?
Well, talking about your experience, the good thing is that it's good. Count that experience good. Why? Because purpose is not a cut and dry thing. It's a journey. And it's a journey towards discovering yourself. And if you know, for us as human beings, we are constantly evolving. Constantly. Experience is coming and we change. We have opportunities that help us gain perspective, and we're constantly evolving. And that really is the idea behind the subject matter of purpose. I like to call it the persuasion of purpose. Because even when you have found what should be your purpose, you need to be fully persuaded that it is. So it's a journey. That's the point. That's the point. It's a journey.
We're going to arrive at the point I'm going to ask you, so how do I know when I have found my purpose?
We will, when we get to that point, we will definitely shed some light about it. But I think the first thing that we need to look at, because when I talk about purpose a lot, I say to people, there are some things we need to understand first. It's not just knowing them.
Okay.
I call them key understandings. I mean, maybe that word doesn't understandings, it doesn't exist in English. But the idea is to understand a few important things that would serve as your rule to guide you along the way. And one of them is the understanding that no man is born without a purpose.
Not even the area boy on the road?
No man. In fact, it is a fallacy to think that certain individuals have no purpose in life. It is a fact, regardless of how aimlessly they may currently be living.
But Ubong,
regardless, it doesn't matter.
Is it not possible that his purpose was to be an area boy?
It can't possibly be, because when we start to look at, hopefully when we get to the point when we talk about the qualities of a worthy purpose, because purpose itself must be worthy.
Yes, it has to be positive.
It has to be positive and all of that. Yes. You would find that definitely it rules out being a miscreant, it rules out being a good for nothing. It definitely rules it out. In fact, all of those individuals are applying their talents in reverse gear. That's really the issue. So it rules that out completely. I probably need to digress a bit. It reminds me of the story of the famed mafia lord by the name Luciano, who committed so much in terms of atrocities and really helped in entrenching the concept of organized crime. At the twilight of his life, he was asked a question: if you had the opportunity to do this again, would you do it differently? And guess what his answer was? Yes, I would do it differently. Because I've realized that it takes us the same mentality and brain to make a good million as it has taken me to make a bad one. So you see, there will be judgment day, in the sense that towards the end of our individual existences, we'll be asking certain questions. And we will all always come back to this point: purpose. Why am I here? So every individual is sent into this world with a purpose attached to their needs, attached to their DNAs, attached to everything, every fiber of their beings. There is a message, there is a calling, there is an assignment, and our goal as individuals is to discover it and go for it. So it's very important that people understand this very key starting point, that it's not that don't regardless of how bad an experience you're having, no hope is lost yet. You still have a purpose. It hasn't changed at all.
So in my search, what key things should I look out for in trying to discover what my purpose is?
Well, what key things you should be looking out for in discovering your purpose? One, you've got to look at your potential as a person. Okay. I think that's very important. Your potential. You've got to look at your disposition. The things that easily appeal to you, the things that easily call your attention, the things that you so easily and quickly empathize with.
But sometimes those things are acquired.
Sometimes they are. That's why, if you noticed earlier when I said this is going to be a journey. Now, I hope that our viewers listening, I do not want anyone to think that at the end of this program, say for today, you would have gotten the keys to the kingdom, in that sense, saying, yeah, this is it.
This is my purpose.
You must be willing to embark on a journey. It might come all of a sudden. It just might not also come all of a sudden. You have to be determined and be prepared to discover, to interpret certain things, certain occurrences. I have found people who suddenly discovered their calling in life after a very harrowing experience. In their 40s.
That helps.
And there are others who, at 15, the typical prodigies, who discovered their purpose because they had mentors, people who saw ahead of them, who saw beyond what they could see, who were able to draw those conclusions or make those deductions as to say, this is the way you should be heading. And 20 years down the line, they discovered that was the right thing for them. So, it cannot be the same for everyone. But the key rule is, it's a journey, and I'm glad I'm not here without a purpose, and no one is either.
Yeah, something just came to my mind. You have, I just take medicine for instance. You have some doctors who seem to be born to be doctors.
Really?
And you have others who actually make an effort. You can see that they're struggling to really medicine, they're struggling to enjoy being doctors. I mean, those guys who seem to us natural, is it that was their purpose?
Clearly, it's a very, very interesting scenario painted here. And I think it takes me to the next key understanding as far as purpose is concerned, that your purpose is not your job or your career or your position.
Being a doctor is more than a career or a profession.
Well, it is to some extent a career, no doubt, even though it has a lot more attached to it in terms of expectations and value. However, it is true that a job can be a worthwhile thing. Let's face it. People would, you need a job at a certain point in your life, but it's very important to understand that it may not be your purpose. So that people, you don't say because I'm the general manager of XYZ Corporation or I am the chief medical director of XYZ Hospital, that is my purpose. It may not necessarily be.
Okay, so we'll just leave it there for now. We'll come back and go into the nitty-gritty of it.
Achievement Channel. Conversation with Mr. Motivator.
You're watching Achievement Channel and we're talking to Mr. Motivator. And we left off at the point where we were trying to differentiate between one's purpose and one's profession.
Absolutely. And while a profession or a job may be instrumental, and this is the key point here, to fulfilling purpose, it is not in and of itself purpose, because the concept of purpose is far bigger than just a profession or a job, because in one lifetime you could end up having 2, 3, 4 professions. 2, 3. I always like to take the classical example of Dr. Christopher Collard. In a lifetime, he's gone from being a civil servant, to becoming a corporate chief executive,
an actor,
and he's also played the role of a diplomat.
But I think his purpose was to motivate people.
Well, that will be for him to decide or to explain, because of course purpose is a journey and it is a very, very personal one. So if we were to restrict purpose to a profession, we will be doing disservice, or a great disservice, to the individual and to his or her potential and calling. So we need to have a very broad view, take a very broad view of this. It's very, very important. I used to be scared of nurses until I grew up to understand the meaning of the word nurse. And I came to the conclusion that perhaps 70 to 80% of the individuals we have as nurses in our hospitals have no business being nurses, because a nurse is supposed to nurture you, but some nurses torture you. So you find, even though they have the skill, they've gone to school, they've learned the profession, but for you to assume a purpose angle, a more purposeful bent, it must come from within. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there are people nursing when they should be boxing. Possible. I don't know. Now there are people who are boxing and are bringing so much joy and pleasure and meaning, as it were, in commercial terms, in terms of the profession. Take a Muhammad Ali, for example. Before he entered the boxing ring in the 60s, boxing was called a mob-dominated sport. But this individual comes to the ring, brings in beauty, brings in balletic precision, and says, I am the greatest, and we all fall in love with it.
Suddenly boxing.
There was a calling. That's what I'm saying. There was a calling to it. A mob-dominated sport becomes something that we all could associate with, and suddenly begins to attract all of those millions and all of that attention that it's getting up to today. And truly, he was the greatest, whether or not you liked his arrogance. Looking at all of these scenarios in their respective contexts will help every one of us as individuals to situate ourselves in our respective callings. And that's the key. So it's much more than a profession. We shouldn't look at it from the standpoint of until I become the chief executive or become this or that. We should look at it from within.
Now, okay,
Yes.
we'll just take a break now and go to the classroom. We'll now go to the Peak Performance Masterclass.
Nothing is ever free. Someone always pays for it in one way or the other. And if you take that concept and apply it to your own self as a person, unless you are willing to pay a price for your own development, in other words, pay a price to nurture yourself, the reality is this: you will always stay the same. So if you do not make that commitment, you're going to remain the same. And I always say to people, in the final analysis or in the long run, there is no such thing as staying the same. When you look at it, there is no such thing as staying the same. You're either stepping up or you're messing up, whichever way you look at it. Because if you look at the way the world is going today, the moment you decide to stand still and not move, what happens? The world moves. So you cannot effectively say that you are remaining the same. You have, in one way or the other, retrogressed. That's what happens. So the mindset, as we challenge ourselves to raise our game, to raise our approach to our lives, to improve on our abilities, whether it's our communication skills or our ability to relate or interact with people, or in terms of the goals that we set for ourselves, the mindset is to always say, what can I do to be better? What can I do to improve my situation? The mindset you should also look at is what we call the asset mindset. Now, what is an asset? An asset is something that you value. An asset is something that is important. As a chartered accountant, I'm sure your view of an asset will be something that appreciates. Or as a business person, an asset is something that you'll be willing to protect because it's instrumental to your productivity. So what is critical in asset terms is that there is value involved. Then, if it's valuable, it means also that it appreciates. If it appreciates, it means that it brings returns. I'm going to this land because I want you to see yourself as an asset. Because when we mention the word asset, what typically comes to the mind of most people are things like cars, houses, the typical material things that we have become so driven by. The moment a brand new Toyota Corolla rolls out of that showroom, say for 5 million naira, drive it back in 15 minutes later, still intact, you will not get 5 million naira for that car. And unfortunately, as human beings, we have also applied that to ourselves. The older we become, the less wise we are. The older we become, the less productivity we tend to be. When the human person is supposed to be like wine, that what becomes richer, sweeter with what? Age. So it's supposed to be that the older we become, the wiser, the stronger, the better we get. If you grow older in a vacuum, in other words, if you go from 35 to 40 years in a vacuum with your degree of 15 years ago only, with nothing else that you have added to yourself, what happens is that you're becoming weaker as a person. You are becoming less of value as a person. In other words, you are depreciating. What peak performance is about is to say that for every year of your life, you take responsibility to add value to yourself every single year, every single month, every single week, possibly every single day, such that as you grow older, you're getting wiser, you're getting stronger, you're getting better, you're getting more and more influential. That is growth, and that is what peak performance suggests, that you are on a journey, a never-ending journey to endless heights of improvement. That is what achieving at the peak of your powers is about.
You're watching the Achievement Channel, and we're having a conversation with Mr. Motivator. And he was telling us about the roadmap to discovering one's purpose.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think you need to tell us more about that.
Clearly, it's so important. One of the things we need to know as well, in fact understand, is what I call your entitlement to existence. Now, the word entitlement is a very... Yes, your entitlement. Now, I'm going to clarify that. Lest someone thinks that it's about that. It's entitlement in the sense of, oh, I work in this ministry, therefore there are entitlements. I go and collect. No, it is simply this, that you have a right to be here. You have a right to exist. You have a right to be here for such a time as this. There is nothing you can do about it. It's your right, it's been given to you, and those rights are inalienable. You've got to understand that. One of the things I ask people who work in organizations, public and private sectors, the word entitlement is a very strong word as far as they are concerned. It's never to be toyed with. If, for example, we're traveling out and I'm entitled to, say, a daily tour allowance, or what they call a duty tour allowance of XYZ amount, no one toys with it. It's my entitlement. So we will fight for it. In fact, we will fight. You may have to lose your job because you didn't take good care of that. So it's now, if we bring that kind of attitude to our living, to our search for meaning, what wonders it will work. Because when you see that you're entitled to exist, to be here for such a time like this, it should be what pushes you to the pedestal to find out what exactly is that specific thing that I am supposed to be doing. So it's a very keystone factor in unraveling our purpose for living. Then there is also the point that you are needed in this world. You are needed in this life.
Try and explain that to an area.
As a matter of fact, you are not surplus to requirements. It doesn't matter if you were the 11th child that was not budgeted for or planned or the mistake. It doesn't matter. You're here, you're here. You are not surplus to requirement. You are needed. One of my mentors used to say that there may be illegitimate parents because they do illegitimate things sometimes.
But there
are no illegitimate children. So, that should encourage people who feel that the circumstances of their birth are questionable or are not things they feel proud of. Notwithstanding, the typical example of David in the Bible that became king, he wasn't among the main children of the main man or the main woman, but somehow he was like a back-end kid that came out of, say, a one-night stand, but he became king.
That was his purpose.
That was his purpose. So he was never surplus to requirement. Even when others thought that of him, the rain, when it falls, does not select. It falls on all. The sun, when it shines, does not say, hey, you are of this color. Okay, I will shine on only the south and leave the southwest.
Yeah.
The sun shines and shines on all. All of us are supposed to maximize these universal possibilities. So you can find, when you look at success stories, when you look at Success Hall of Fame, it's made up of Christians, Muslims, with all kinds of people. And the key factor is the application of the laws and principles of success. And finding purpose is one of them.
Very interesting indeed.
And that's why there's an admonition I give in all of this. I haven't shared a lot of these thoughts as understanding is, do not throw your life away. Never you throw your life away because it's useful.
Don't throw your life away. Great advice there from Mr. Motivator himself, Mr. Ubong Essien. Your life has a purpose. In fact, so does mine for that matter. So you've been watching Achievement Channel, and we were chatting with Mr. Motivator, Ubong Essien. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Achievement Channel. Conversation with Mr. Motivator.